What's going on, guys? This is Lior with Compass out of Boston, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to figure out what the right market rent is for your apartment units. So let's get at it. What's going on, guys? This is Lior with Compass out of Boston, and in this video, we're going to be talking about how you can figure out what the right market rent is for apartment units that you may own, whether you're house hacking or you own investment property or whatever it is. Now, before we get into it, two quick things. Number one, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, smash that subscribe button. I put out tons of new videos every single week talking about what it's like living in different parts of Boston, tips on buying, tips on selling, tips on investing, and so on. So if you haven't already subscribed, smash that button. And number two, if you guys are even thinking about doing anything with real estate anywhere around the greater Boston area, whether it's buying, selling, investing, whatever it is, I get so many calls from you guys watching my YouTube videos, and I absolutely love it. So if you have any questions, send me a call, send me a text, email, hit me up on Instagram, whatever it is, and I will help you out. So let's get into the different sources of how you can figure out what market rents are for your apartment units. And we're going to give you 5 different sources, and they're going to be ranked from the best all the way down to the worst. So let's start with number 1, which is MLS Rental Comps. And the best way, and the reason why it's number 1 is because the best way to figure out what the true market rent is for an apartment is by seeing what other similar apartments have rented for, right? Because those apartments had tenants come in, agree to the lease, and pay that rent. So obviously that would be the definition of a market rent, right? Something that's already sold or rented. Now, if you're not an agent, you won't necessarily have access to these MLS comps, but it's very easy for you to hit up an agent, ask them to send you comps for specific types of apartments and specific types of neighborhoods and specific type of condition, right? So that is absolutely going to be your best indicator of what rental comps are for a specific type of product. Number 2 best source to figure out rental comps is to look at active listings. And you can do that yourself by going on websites like Zillow, Trulia, apartments.com, any others. If you search apartments for rent in Boston, apartments for rent in North Shore, whatever it is, you'll find tons of active listings on different sorts of real estate websites. Now, the reason why there's number 2 is because, remember, these are active listings. So that's just something that landlords are asking for rent, but it's not necessarily something they've already received or tenants have agreed to. So even though it's generally a pretty good ballpark, you have to make that distinction of, hey, this already got rented and this is a true indication, versus these are just active listings, that hopefully will get rented for that price, but maybe they're overpriced, maybe there's something wrong, maybe they'll renegotiate it down, right? So just have that active distinction. But in terms of being able to find these sources, it's very easy for your average investor to just search on the, like I said, all these different websites. You can Google. And you can look by different condition, by different size and different neighborhoods, and figure out, again, what are people asking for these kinds of units, and then go from there. Source number 3 is Craigslist. And the reason why I put Craigslist after the other ones is, even though Craigslist also has the same idea, right? It's active listings of landlords that are actively marketing their units for rent. I always kind of put a little bit of an asterisk on Craigslist, because Craigslist, you can have anyone, any owner, any person, any tenant list their apartment for rent for whatever reason. So again, it's certainly another source of active listings. I just think there's a little bit less control there in terms of quality of information. So definitely look at it, but just know that if you see some weird stuff, weird numbers that maybe not be lining up from other websites, you need to be a little bit more diligent with Craigslist. Source number 4 I'm going to talk about is Rentometer. And if you Googled, how to find market rents on maybe Bigger Pockets or other websites, Rentometer may have been one of the websites you got recommended to get kind of a feel for market rents. And though it is not a bad source, in order to get like a very high level picture of that, you need to be very careful with it, especially in a market like Greater Boston, where all these different cities and even neighborhoods within cities can be so drastically different. I can think of multiple cities where you can literally take one neighborhood within the city and the next neighborhood over and have very, very different market rents. And again, the issue with rental meters, when you plug in a city like, say, Cambridge or Somerville or Brookline, right? It will give you kind of like a average or some sort of algorithm crunched out data, but it's not going to get super neighborhood specific. And again, in these kinds of markets where there's such drastic shifts from one place to another, that may not be the best resource to really drill down on the right market rents for your specific neighborhood. The other thing it doesn't really account to is amenities, right? Especially in a city, you've got so many different amenity packages, from like parking, in-unit washer, dryer, dishwashers, roof decks, patios, yards, condition, right? It doesn't really account for all these factors, which can really have pretty big swings on rent. So that's why it kind of gives you a very high level. Just be careful not to dig too deep into that. You really want to get specific in terms of all these different criteria I mentioned in order to figure out the true potential market rent of the units you have. And finally, source number 5 I'm going to put out there is your local housing authority, basically the Section 8 standard. Now, this is not going to apply to everyone. If you don't, if you're not someone that's really looking to work with that, that's fine. If you're open to that, you can see what your local housing authority is willing to pay for a specific zip code for a specific number of bedrooms, right? So one of the things you can do in Boston is you can Google, like, say, Boston Housing Authority payment standards. You'll come up with a chart that will tell you the maximum amount of rent you can get based on bedroom count and zip code. Now, again, this is not really market rent, right? Because market, it doesn't 100% correlate. There's certainly some sort of correlation and basis for these rents that are based on the market rents, but they're not exactly the same. But again, it's just another indicator you can use to say, hey, am I within some sort of ballpark? Does this feel right? If I were to accept a Section 8 applicant, what would the highest be that that Section 8 would be willing to pay? So it's just another resource you can use to potentially triangulate your data. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. If you have any questions, any comments, any thoughts, shoot them below. And like I said, guys, I get so many calls from you guys watching my videos, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about doing anything with real estate, hit me up and I will take care of you.